Hey everybody, what's up? Thank you for coming back to the Transatlantic Sports Show. We're now a month into our YouTube channel and the numbers keep going up. So thank you very much for downloading, and do us a favor, please hit subscribe and hit that like button as well, because when you hit that like button, people come looking for us. And Titans fans out there, you're gonna want to encourage your fellow fans to come and join us for this special episode of the Transatlantic Sports Show, because we're celebrating, baby. The Titans are coming back to London 5 years after their debut over here back in 2018. What a gorgeous sunny day, late October. And there's like October 21st, 2018, when they were over here. Mike Vrabel, sorry, he had the Stones. Remember at the end, he went for it with Marcus Mariota. He went for two instead of the one. Unfortunately, missed out. But what an exciting end to that game. Well, the Titans are coming back. This time, they are the home team. They're at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. They wrap up the proceedings at the NFL London series before the NFL then heads off to Germany a few weeks later. Week 4, 5 weeks, 6. There you go. I had to do the math. October 15th, they are the home team. 2:30 kickoff over here in the UK against the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson, no less, is coming over to this side of the pond with the Ravens to take on the Tennessee Titans. And I'm delighted to say that executive producer and game day host and all-round good friend of the show and an all-round good egg as well, a great guy, Rhett Bryan, is joining us now. Rhett, man, welcome back to the show, and what a time to have you back.
Anthony, it's been too long. First of all, your check's in the mail for the intro. Thanks for that. But yeah, I'm super excited that the Titans are a part of the NFL international schedule in 2023, and to come back to London and come back overseas is fantastic. It's been too long since you and I had a catch up, and I'm glad we're doing it here. You were talking about, and I was thinking about this. You were talking about the last time you were here, October 21st of 2018. That was Mike Vrabel's rookie season as head coach of the Titans. And that was a pivotal moment for a premier player for the Titans. If you go back and look at that box score, there was a lot of things that went on that day. And you're right, the 2-point conversion that was failed at the end, and they lost to the Chargers by a point there. That's just the icing on the cake. When you go back and look at the main course, if you will, if we're speaking in terms of a meal, so you had a moment there, and that was a moment in time where Derrick Henry wasn't even a starting running back of this team. There was Dion Lewis that they had picked up in the free agency from the New England Patriots. And then they had David Fluellen, who was also a running back in this. David Fluellen had a couple of carries in goal line situations, not Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry hadn't become Derrick Henry yet. That's what's so crazy when they say hindsight is 2020. Well, man, it is big time 2020 in this particular instance. Dion Lewis had a great game. I think he had 165 yards from scrimmage.
Yes, he
that
did.
day.
He was in my fantasy team that day. Yeah, had a
There
great
you
day
go.
for me as well, man.
There you go. You probably got a win that day, right?
I had a Keenan Allen as well. You can see the picture of him. That's me interviewing him after the game there. But yeah, Keenan
There
Allen in
we
my
go.
fantasy roster. Yeah, man. I was probably touching on 200 points in fantasy that day. But sorry, Rhett.
No, you're good. You're good. Hey, listen, you get a win like that, you got to take a laugh.
Hey, thank you very much.
I play fantasy too. But so the story goes is, and we didn't realize this till later on in the season. It was about 4, 5, 6 weeks later that the Titans had that Thursday night game at home at Nissan Stadium in Nashville against the Jacksonville Jaguars, where he exploded for 200 plus yards and 4 touchdowns. He had the 99-yard run. So let's scroll back to that October 21st game. So they get home, they're defeated. It was a long road trip, quick turnaround, the whole deal. And another Titans great at that position reaches out to then Derrick Henry, and it's Eddie George. And Eddie George says, I see you running, and I don't see you running with a purpose. I don't see you running angry. In fact, he said some things I probably shouldn't say here, and I'm not going to. But he basically encouraged him to say, look, dude, you have got to pick it up, or you're going to find yourself out of this league. In fact, there was talks within that season that he might be traded or that he might even be released. And so fast forward in that season a few weeks later to that Thursday night game. And then since then, he has been the monster that has carried the ball for 8,000 yards and I don't know 65 touchdowns. But that's one of the things I distinctly remember about after everything wrapped up at Wembley that day before we came back to Nashville, and what an incredible window of time that Derrick Henry has had, even despite losing a half a season a couple of years ago with a broken foot.
Yeah.
He's just been a mega star in this for the Titans.
A huge superstar, yeah. And I mean, Titans fans, you must really appreciate having that, that player, having that weapon in your offense. And interesting, what a great story that, it's like a real sliding doors moment, wasn't it? And it was over here at Wembley Stadium, and he went away. My goodness, it's amazing how things work out. But it's the classic saying, isn't it, with athletes? It's how you get over those humps and those obstacles that life throws at you. And he took on board messages, and he heard it, and he went out and he performed. And look at him now. And hey, we're just a week removed from the coronation, but we've got the King Henry is coming back to London.
There
October
it is. That's
15th.
the segue I was looking for.
That's the one, baby. They're coming to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It's turf. It's not a grass field that they'll be playing on. Do you think is there any concern to the Titans? What's the overall feeling over there in Tennessee when it was announced? Because you guys have known for some weeks that they've, of course, been the home team. They're giving up a home game, but they've got the extra home game in the AFC this season anyways. But, they're giving up a home game, and it's against the Baltimore Ravens. So you're not getting Lamar Jackson coming to Nashville this year. So what's the overall feeling with Titans fans and natives over there?
So when that dropped earlier, that it was going to be October 15th, week 6, and the Ravens were going to be the opponent at Tottenham Hotspur, I think some of the fan base, I didn't hear like loud moans and roars and cries about it, but that one of the best games in the home schedule had been taken away. And I'm like, I had some buddies of mine say, "Hey man, what's the deal?" I'm like, "It's called the National Football League.
Sure.
That Shield, they do what they want when they want. That's why they've made it a year-round calendar year event." I mean, remember when the schedule used to come out just prior to the NFL draft, and they said, "Wait a minute, we're doing this wrong. Let's shift this to May and become pertinent in that month as well, while OTAs and mini camps and rookie mini camps are going on." And guess what? They're owning it. So that was kind of the sentiment from some. It's like, doggone it, because that is, people say Jacksonville, but honestly, the longest, most hated rival in the history of the Titans in 20 plus years is the Baltimore Ravens.
Is that right?
It goes back to the Eddie George versus Ray Lewis days, and
Right.
Absolutely. And then, some of the postseason battles when you go to when the Titans were clearly the best team in 2000 after the Super Bowl run. That was the 2000 year was the year they probably should have won the Super Bowl. But the Ravens came in here. The Titans were the number 1 seed, and they cut the pins out from under them. And so there was that, and you have the divisional win, just 3-4 years ago when they went to Baltimore and they figured out Lamar Jackson.
Yes.
And they ended up sneaking out of there with a win. And then the following year, the Titans have the number 1 seed. Baltimore comes in here, knocks them out of the playoffs. So there's back and forth. So that's the first part of it. In terms of the turf and those things, it's interesting you bring that up because the Titans just recently announced that they will be going to artificial turf at Nissan Stadium this season.
Really?
For the first time ever. Yeah. And so here's the thing. This stadium sits on the banks of the Cumberland River, just across from downtown Nashville. And I'm sure some of your viewers may have been to the 2019 draft in Nashville because there were 600,000 people here from all over the world. And so there's always been an issue with keeping grass grown there in the not so friendly months. Grass is great there in August, September, October. You get into the first couple of freezes here, and we don't have extremely cold winters, but it's just been harder. And this is something that's been brewing, I think, for a while. So, in fact, they asked Ryan Tannehill, the quarterback, about this. He said, "I'm not crazy about turf, but it is what it is. So we'll have to do what we got to do." And he spoke in terms of the recovery time and what it does to your body afterwards, probably 24, 48 hours after you play a game. But that's going to be interesting. That's interesting that you brought that up because that's something that's going to be a thing for the first time ever in their building that exists. And then it will be artificial surface in the new stadium that now has cleared most all of the hurdles and will be erected, hopefully, fingers crossed, in sometime in early 2027. because in fact, they announced last week the first major event there is going to be WWE's WrestleMania
Get
in
out.
2027.
No way.
Um, but it's going to be. It's what's interesting is that we're going to. I really want to take a look at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium because I know that this is one that is obviously made for y'all's football, soccer, and has also been made for North American football. It's one of the few like it, right? And I looked at the capacity and it was like 62,980 or whatever. I'm like, well, that's 62,000 is what they're going to build right next door to Nissan Stadium. And part of that is because there's no land acquisition needed. It's going to be built in some of the parking lots that are used right there next to the stadium. But that's what the modern footprint has been outside of Jerry World at AT&T where the Cowboys play and where the Chargers and the Rams play at SoFi.
Mm.
Most stadiums are now in this kind of a footprint, right? And it's going to be a closed roof stadium, translucent roof like SoFi. So a lot of the natural light comes in. And some of the artist renderings are incredible what this thing's going to look like because it's really going to have a Nashville feel to it. But so I'm interested to see how this thing hugs the field and what 62,000 looks like in there at Tottenham Hotspur because that's on the horizon.
Man, you are going to love it. Honestly, as a football venue for NFL football, it's fantastic. As you mentioned, it's been designed specifically with the NFL in mind. I've been fortunate enough this season. I was at the 2 Tottenham games last season. So, I'm thinking of our Premier League football season. So, we're still in that football season. But back in October, I was at the 2 NFL games and I've been to a few of the Tottenham games covering for work. And it's just an awesome venue. There's no bad seat in the house in there. And I was chatting to somebody in the office today, and we are talking about the London games, and we were talking about Wembley, and he was saying how he much prefers the Tottenham Stadium because you might remember Wembley, it's 85,000. It's a 90,000 capacity stadium, but you have to cover 5,000 seats because they're so low to the field. The dudes standing up on the sideline, you wouldn't be able to see over them. That's why it's all covered up. So when you watch the games at Wembley, you'll notice that around the side. Whereas Tottenham, they've got the wall like you guys have in the States, from the field to the stands.
Yeah, with the bunting, right.
That's right, yeah. And it's like a bowl the whole way around. And there, like I said, there isn't a bad seat in the house as a spectacle. And it really drums up an atmosphere as well. Probably helps as well that, obviously it's a Premier League football stadium, soccer stadium. So it's got that and it builds that buzz. But it is a very, very unique and a very special stadium. Now, as you can see, if you're listening to this Transatlantic Sports Show podcast, then please check us out on YouTube, by the way. You can just search for the Transatlantic Sports Show or at TASS_UK. That's our social media handle as well. But those of you watching on YouTube, I am wearing a Munich game t-shirt. That's because I was fortunate to go over to Germany for the very first NFL Germany game last year. We saw Tom Brady beat the Seattle Seahawks over there. But Rhett, when I was out there, it was at the Allianz Arena, which is the Bayern Munich stadium. That's 69,000, maybe 68,000 was there. But I was expecting it to be similar to Wembley, where they cover up the lower rows of the seats, but they didn't have that because they have that the bunting or the barrier between the field and the stands. But that's also because I think they have different security measurements for their soccer Bundesliga games over there. But as a spectacle, that was very similar to Tottenham, but Tottenham is very, very special. I mean, that German crowd, don't get me started. It's like nothing you've ever experienced before. But Titans fans, you're going to absolutely love watching your Tennessee Titans at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It'll certainly feel, they'll get it built and made up, and it'll definitely feel like home for you guys, home away from home. They'll get it all dressed up nicely. The field is spectacular. Like I said, the overall experience in there, I don't think it's going to be anything like you've experienced before. It's going to be totally different to Wembley. And you'll notice that. That'll be the first thing that you notice. Having sat there in that Wembley sunshine, those seats where we were, where the media are, you're still, a few rows away from the field. Whereas at Tottenham, you're pretty much on top of it. No matter where you are in that stadium, you're on top of the action. And it's very, very special. The locker rooms are special. They've got the home locker room. And the home locker room there, it's almost like a civic center. It's huge.
Wow.
And the road team locker room it's not as big, but it's big. Whereas at Wembley, they've had to, they open up like the three locker rooms, changing rooms, just to make up one locker room for the team. So you got your defensive guys, haven't you? And then you've split up, and they've got the offensive guys in the locker rooms there. But this is completely different.
I wanted to ask you something too, because that was the challenge for us is the connectivity and everything, the way it's laid out at Wembley. Is this more like what we're accustomed to in having a radio booth where we can just kind of plug and play? Because we were kind of spread out in all those, media spaces in that lower bowl of Wembley. And I would think that this is obviously being so much more newer that it might have more of the modern.
Yeah, you will find that you guys will probably be further up. You'll be
Mhm.
on the halfway line, but further up. So like when you're watching a soccer game or even the NFL games, and you've got the camera angle, you're not going to be as high up there, but
Right.
you're probably going to be on that middle tier. So you're going to have a great view looking down on the action,
Which is what we're used to.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah.
Okay, perfect.
It's going to be a great setup. You guys are going to absolutely love it. Of course, we're going to love having the Titans over. Like you said, we didn't get Derrick Henry as we know him now when he was over in 2018, but we're going to get that. And Rhett, we've got an exciting young Tennessee Titans team coming over. Who's going to be the quarterback? We don't know. This is going to be week 6 of the season. We're going to see, we'll have an idea of where the Titans are at, but there's a new regime with a new general manager who's come in, and there's been some exciting acquisitions and free agency, and of course in the draft. How are you guys feeling over there? How are Tennessee Titans fans feeling about how the offseason's gone thus far?
So the biggest thing that the fan base had trouble with to start the season, and I've tried to put it out there as much as I could. Listen, there's going to be major change
Mm.
because the offensive line was a problem in 2022. Taylor Lewan injured again. He's jettisoned from the roster, which was not a huge surprise. And then it's protection issue, which ended up, costing Ryan Tannehill some time with a high ankle that he eventually had to have surgery on. And, the Titans missed the playoffs for the first time in 5 years. So um, that was the first thing is who's leaving. And the argument was, is it a complete blow it up and rebuild? Is it a retool, a reset? What is it? And I think now that we can say we've been through free agency, we've just finished the NFL draft, it's a reset. It's not a rebuild
Yeah.
because there's still a lot of core players involved in all it. So they hire Rand Carthon, who was director of personnel for the San Francisco 49ers, and was very well thought of in those circles as an evaluator in terms of his time with the 49ers. The third day of the draft was his baby. That's where he was pulling the diamonds out of the rough. And you look at their roster, he did really well in that. So he brought over a couple of their free agents that didn't cost a whole lot and yet are not have experience, but not out of their prime and friendly, because that was the big thing is he had to clear up some cap issues. So they fired John Robinson in November of last season. And, they had a search, they hire Rand Carthon, and knowing that he had some tough work to do. So there's some free agents that left. Some were by design. Some were going to be leaving because they were a one-year deal or whatever. They had to clean up the cap in this and notice that any of the moves he made, none of them were designated post June 1st transactions where you can take a bath or absorb half of that dead hit money in this season and half next season. It was all a clean. It was like, we're going to take our medicine now. So with that being said, then he added some free agents and some really nice ones, but it was kind of on a budget. And then the big question became, okay, is this the year that Jeffrey Simmons gets paid? Because he's arguably one of the best 2 or 3 players on the team, regardless of position or what side of the ball he's on. And sure enough, we got that answer. He got the extension that he had so deserved and outplayed his rookie contract. That freed up a few more dollars there. There's still going to be some moves made because with them staying and picking at number 11 and the entire draft class, even minus the trades and moves around, it's going to be between $6 and $7 million just to sign the rookie class. And they don't quite have enough to do that and also have operating costs and float money throughout the season, which is something that has been a huge reminder with all the injuries that they've had in the last 2 years. They've had 177 guys on the roster in the last two seasons.
Wow.
Just, I mean, you name it, just anything that could happen will.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's part of it. And so now we can, and I can say that it is a reset because when you look at what they did, they immediately they got a couple of free agent offensive linemen, but they drafted Peter Skoronski at number 11, and all the big tackles and big names for the most part were gone by the time they got to 11. He was by far the best pick and safest pick in that draft at the time that they are ready to turn in their card for the selection. People argue about is he a guard, he's a tackle, he has a short arms. We had a guy named Michael Roos who played for the Titans at left tackle for quite some time, who had arms a quarter of an inch shorter than what Peter Skoronski had. That worked out okay. So, as Coach Mack would say, Dave McGinnis,
Yeah,
he's
man.
really good. Just draft him and figure it out. Don't worry
That's
about
right.
it. He's going to
That's
play
right.
for you for 10 or 12 years. And then the shocker was on Friday night in round 2. The Steelers are sitting there with pick 32. There's these reports that all these teams are clamoring to try to get because of who's still there.
Mm-hmm.
Steelers stick and pick with Joey Porter Jr. for obvious reasons. His father played for the team, et cetera, et cetera. Then the Titans trade up with the Arizona Cardinals. And here we take Will Levis from the University of Kentucky, the last of the big 5, or actually the big 4 quarterbacks at this point that we thought might go in round 1.
Yeah, man.
And so that kind of set the world on fire here because fans were not as receptive to this. And it's because of the performance he had in the Southeastern Conference in 2022. Wasn't as fair and as good for him as it was the year before. And so we had his offensive coordinator on, Liam Cohen, who had gone to the Rams and is now back at Kentucky. So there was a gap year there that they missed each other. But the year that they were together in 2021, he had a really nice year. And they had Wan'Dale Robinson to throw to then, who's a New York Giant now. And so, between that and then you saw the funny stunts that he did about putting mayonnaise in his coffee and eating a banana with a peel. He was trying to be silly, and I think it backfired on him. And people have a poor image of him and think he's a goof when he's just trying to be funny. So, we got rookie mini camp coming up, so I'm really excited to see what he looks like. Certainly has an arm. The accuracy is the issue, as it is for a lot of guys that are coming out of at that level. So that was the kind of thing that tilted the world off of its axis here. Then in round 3, they take my favorite player in the draft that I met at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama back in January, and that's Tajay Spears, the running back from Tulane. And of course, immediately, he's got no ACL and he's had 2 injuries. I'm like, well, calm down, hold it. He did okay in 2022, right? And I'm like, well, yeah, he did fine. I'm like, yeah, he did more than fine. Tulane was 2-10 the year before. They go and win the Cotton Bowl, and he almost single-handedly beats Southern Cal in the Cotton Bowl this year. He had 205 yards and 4 rushing touchdowns in that. Oh, and by the way, he can catch it out of the backfield. And if you heard Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon at different points in the press conferences in the draft of that weekend, they mentioned that he is a 3rd down back, a 3-down back, a 3-down back. So that's something that, quite frankly, Derrick Henry has never been. And it's no fault of his own. They didn't ask him to do that at Alabama, though he has worked very diligently to improve that part of his craft every offseason. And he's done nicely at that. He had career year in catches last year. But anyway, so then you scroll on through and they had no 4th round pick because of the Julio Jones trade from a couple of years ago. They end up taking a tight end, Josh Wiley from Cincinnati. He was a monster tight end at 6'7", almost 255, I think. They take another offensive lineman, Jalen Duncan, a tackle from Maryland, who had 39 of 43 career games were starts for them at left tackle, who's got some work to do, but has great footwork, is a good athlete. And, so they go through this whole, and then they don't draft a wide receiver. So the fan base loses its mind because they need a wide receiver. They take a local guy who's just down the road from Nashville in high school, who played at the University of Tennessee Martin, a small town in West Tennessee, who's a wide receiver who in the 7th round with the last pick. And so, it just kind of was crazy. And the dust is settling now. And the reason I say it's a reset is because they address some positions of need. And it's clear they're taking a shot at the quarterback of their future and the running back of their future because of the contractual status of both Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry, who both, neither one of them have guaranteed money left on their contract, and they're going into the last years of their deal. So
Yeah.
there's a place where things are going to pivot, and you're so right. In by the time we get to October 15th and Week 6 at Tottenham Hotspur, will it be Ryan Tannehill as the quarterback? Will it be Will Levis at quarterback? We will see. And heaven forbid if something happens to Derrick Henry, it's at the Tajay Spears show.
Yeah.
So when the head coach and the general manager tell you that this guy's a 3-down back, that spoke volumes to me. I'm like, okay, this is what they're going for. And this guy, Tajay Spears, Titans fans are going to love him. He's got a heart of gold. He's got fire in his belly. He wants to do better for him and himself and his family coming out of rural Louisiana. And he's going to be an instant hit with the Titans in this if he takes off like I think.
Yeah, I can't wait to see him in action. And also, running backs, they have a certain shelf life unless you're Frank Gore, of course. And Derrick Henry has had his knocks, and he's been laid up with injuries. This is only going to help the Tennessee Titans whilst he's contracted as a player to the Titans, because if you've got a 3-down back, you don't have to burn out Derrick Henry as well. They're going to complement each other.
You hit the nail on the head. That is absolutely right, Anthony, because when you look at even post foot surgery that he had come back from in the playoff game the prior year against the Bengals, and had missed the last 9 regular season games of 2021, he had, between catches out of the backfield and rushes, he had almost 400 touches. And he's going to be 30 years old this coming January.
That's it, man. Yeah.
So there's father time with the clock ticking. So to your point. So yeah, this is going to give Derrick Henry a chance to get a spell, to get a breather. And let's not forget, they took Hassan Haskins from Michigan last in 2022. So they've got 3 solid backs there that can help out number 22. But yeah, that's exactly the point. Is let's give our guy a break when we need it, so that we can have him down the stretch and see what's what. Because, and look, sometimes this ends up being a thing, and sometimes it doesn't mean diddly squat. But currently, the Titans have the 5th easiest schedule in the league. Now, those things change. The trends go in one way. A team you thought was going to be good is not, and vice versa. So, but if it holds true, and it's something that they can kind of motor through, then they're going to need to think about these things down in November, December, if they're trying to make a run. But you got to go out and play and win the games first.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. But also, you've got to factor in, if you're going to make a run and you're going to go deep into January, you're going to want to have Derrick Henry at his peak heading into those late months in the season. And how do you do that? Then, as we said, you complement him with the rookie. Yeah.
That's why they say it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. And the league and the Super Bowl isn't won in those early weeks of the season. However, if you look back when you get to the tail end of the season, you're like, oh man, if only we did that in September, then who knows what seed we would have been in. What about Malik Willis? What's happened with him? He was drafted obviously later than we expected him to be drafted last year. Didn't quite work out. What's the situation as far as he's concerned?
Yeah, he was taken 86th overall in the 3rd round in the 2022 draft. And honestly, if I think we're being honest here, I don't think it was in the plans for him to ever have played in 2022.
Right.
But Logan Woodside, who had been the backup, ends up going to the Atlanta Falcons to back up Marcus Mariota. And injuries and lack of protection and those things end up throwing him into the fire. And it became evident that he was not completely ready to play. And listen, the Titans knew that. And I think anybody that has your eyeballs on Malik Willis knew that. The young man is progressing, but it's a work in progress. So, and then when it came time for him to start another game, they bring in Joshua Dobbs. And then that was the tell, is that Joshua Dobbs had been here 6 days or whatever it was, and they threw him into the starter towards the end of the year. So I can only hope that Malik, because I have not seen him, I hope to see him very soon, has been diligently working at the facility as the offseason program has begun now for about 3 weeks. And, that he is still competing and preparing. They said at the press conference tonight they drafted Will Levis. It's Tannehill 1 and Malik 2 and Willis and Levis 3.
Right.
And we've told all three of them, this is where the rest is up to you. So hopefully that's something that Malik took to heart, and he's a bright, great young man. You couldn't help but like him, and he clearly has some talent. It's just harvesting that out and getting. And look, he's got a leg up on Will Levis because he's been around the block now. He's been
That's
in
right.
a calendar year and knows the system and the personnel and the building and all those things that you get comfortable with. And now you can actually start to work towards propelling yourself.
You mentioned, Rhett, about the stadium plans, and I retweeted your tweet last week. I think when you said, I can't remember, but when they were the images were first shown off. When that development is taking place, is Nissan Stadium, is that still going to remain open? My thinking here is, in the past, where we've had the likes of the Raiders upping sticks and having stadiums developed, and the Rams, we've had the luxury of having those teams come over regularly for games over in London. So my question is, could we see more of the Titans coming over to London and perhaps maybe even to Germany whilst the development of their new stadium takes place?
That is possible. I wouldn't listen with the way that the NFL laid out this international schedule just a few days ago.
Yeah,
I think anything's possible because I
sure.
mean, let's think of it this way, because I mentioned earlier on the show here that NFL Shield and doing what they want to do is evident in one of those Germany games. Kansas City fans don't get to see Tyreek Hill in a revenge game, if you will. Now that he's with the Miami Dolphins, they're going to have to go to Germany to see that.
You're so
And
right.
so there's a prime example. So with what you're talking about in logistics and those things, sure, that's absolutely possible. So let me outline it this way for you though, in terms of where it is here on the ground in Nashville. So they recently has the Metro Council is one of the governing bodies in this thing, and so it recently passed its final reading. So those major hurdles have been made. There's still a couple other things that they're going to have to work through, but it's going to be built right next door to Nissan Stadium, and so Nissan Stadium will remain open as
Mm,
long as that takes place, and then at some point they will implode Nissan Stadium, and there will be an East Bank River development there that will be much like you see in North American sports, where there are mixed use space between bars and event spaces and restaurants and maybe a bowling alley or whatever.
mm.
They're going to develop it kind of like that, adjacent to the new stadium, and that's one of the big things that has been internally for all those who've been opposed to the stadium, which again, you're talking about expenditure and tax monies and those things. When they built the Nissan Stadium over 25 years ago, it was a hurry up and get it done proposition because Nashville had been awarded an NFL franchise and we got to move on it. So one of the main expenditures back then was land acquisition and
Right.
getting property because this seemed like it got on a faster track. It's because they're building it in what is already Metro-owned land that they bought 25 plus years ago. There's no land acquisition involved in this. So that part of the cost is not there. And so the other thing is this. So there were going to be renovations to Nissan Stadium, and they were going to take off one of the top layer of seats on the side closest to the Cumberland River and make mixed use space out of that with rooftop bars and things like that. And once they got into the structure of it, they realized that structurally it was starting to decay at a greater rate than what they'd anticipated. And it's because that's just the way, construction and things have changed, just like all modern technology.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what was going to cost them outside of the structure, it was going to be plumbing and wiring and the windows. The windows that were in this building, the company's not even existed. So all of these things that it was going to cost expenditure-wise was going to be things that weren't aesthetically noticed. It was in infrastructure stuff. It's like, well, they spent all this money in here and it looks the same. Yeah, because they changed the plumbing and the wiring. And so between, the increase in supplies and all of these things as a result of the pandemic and chain supply issues, they got these bids back from the contractors, and I'm like, oh my lord, we were going to spend this, and it's 3 times as much. And if we spend a little more, we could just get a new building. And that's the way this kind of thing went quickly.
Wow, wow. Look, when you guys come over, Rhett, with Titans Radio, you're gonna have Coach Matt coming over. You guys gonna be heading to a pub and doing all that. Of course, you're the home team, so you're gonna have to hit the town, man.
Absolutely, we are very excited to be able to do that and to see you and all of our Titans friends across the pond, as we say here. But yeah, it's going to be great. I mean, these international games are awesome, and I got nothing against going to Mexico City or whatever. The London game it's so cool, and I eventually would love to go to Munich and do a game in Germany. I think that would be awesome as well. But there's something about England. I don't know what it is. I've always liked it, and I really enjoyed some sightseeing when I was there 5 years ago. We were able to get a peek at Abbey Road, Westminster Abbey, and go by
Yeah,
Buckingham Palace, and it was
nice.
great. It was awesome.
Nice, nice. Look, we're looking forward to having you guys back over, and we're hoping history's going to be made here in the Wootton family as well. It's going to be our first family outing to an NFL game.
Yes,
The last time they were over, my
yes,
eldest son Louis, he went. That was his first NFL experience. The youngest now is at an age where he can take it in. So
excellent,
we're
excellent.
gonna be making that trip to North London, and they can see what their old man's all about and why he goes around the world covering this
You know,
weird and
I'm
wonderful sport.
I'm so glad to hear you say that. That's fantastic. Because I've seen your boys grow up through your
Yeah.
profile on Twitter, and I remember when your son got his first experience. Now the youngest one's going to do that. I need to make it a point to talk to the powers that be at the Tennessee Titans, and we need to get you some gear so that you can properly represent. And I'm going to get that. We're going to get that sent to you because I think we need to do that for sure.
Dude, they will rock it. They will rock it absolutely. Very, very proudly wear that. That's pretty awesome. That's very cool. Well, look, Rhett, I mean, we're gonna hook up again between now and October 15th. There's gonna be so much to talk about, and we're gonna get so excited for you guys to come over. So if people want to follow you on social media, Rhett, where do they go?
Go to Twitter. I'm at Rhett B Tennessee. RHETT letter B Tennessee, just like the state I live
And for your benefit, audio listeners, if you were watching on YouTube, you would have seen it displayed on the screen as he said it there. So all the more reason to get onto YouTube, search the Transatlantic Sports Show, and hit subscribe. Rhett, sorry to say that the next guest that we've got coming up on the Transatlantic Sports Show is from the Jacksonville Jaguars. They play some games over in London as well. I'm sorry about that, but I've got to promote it, Rhett. And they're pretty high-powered people from the Jacksonville Jaguars talking about their commitment to London. But you know what? Thanks to the Jacksonville Jaguars and the success that they've had over here, we've seen the growth of the NFL. So we can give them a nice little thanks for that. But that's it for now for the
That's where
Jaguars.
it is for me. Yes.
But I mean, one of my concerns was for you was that the Jags were going to be the road team against the Titans. I was like, oh, they're gonna do one on their arch rivals. That's the way to do it. But thankfully, pardon me, I've got a frog in my throat. Thankfully, though, for the Tennessee Titans, we're gonna get this rivalry. This rivalry with the Ravens. I never knew that existed as,
Oh man,
as a
I
rivalry.
mean it's ugly. The longtime Titans fans will tell you it is. They would mention the Ravens before they would ever mention Jacksonville. Yeah,
Can't wait for that.
yeah.
Absolutely, it's going to be awesome. All the more reason to subscribe to the Transatlantic Sports Show, and Titans fans across the pond as well. Subscribe to us because we've got some Titans players who are going to be heading over here, so we're going to get some exclusive interviews whilst they're over, so you can see what your Titans players are up to over in London ahead of the London series. So I think there's a few guys coming over in the summer months, so around June, July time, we'll get some interviews and you'll be able to see them and hear them here on the Transatlantic Sports Show. But thanks, Rhett, as always. And if you are Titans fans and you're Titans fans on this side of the pond, then make a point of tuning in to Titans Radio so you can hear Rhett and Coach Mac. I can't wait to see that guy again. What a dude! I just have superb fond memories of sitting in the sunshine and talking with him. And my friend Dave, he was with us, and he was a
hmm
Bears fan, and the two, they just went off like two long lost friends, didn't they? It was a good time had all around.
Yeah, Coach Mack has never met a stranger. Never. And that's why we call him the mayor of everywhere, because hey, Coach Mack, hey, come here. You know, so
He's going to be the Lord Mayor of London.
yes, yes, he is.
We'll have a parade for him and everything. We'll get him to meet the king, the real king, King Charles. No, King Henry, of course. Right, but Rhett, thank you so much. And thank you guys for watching here and listening to the Transatlantic Sports. We've got so much more coming your way. As I said, we got some Jacksonville Jaguars coming, but we're going to be talking and focusing on the success of the Jacksonville Jaguars and what 2 games, back-to-back games here in London means for the future of the Jags in London. I don't think they're going to be upping sticks and moving to London, but what does it mean for Jags UK and the Jags commitment to London and the NFL in Europe? More of that to come, so please hit subscribe to the Transatlantic Sports Show. Until next time.